Hey dudes, this is Marilyn Gigliotti, Veronica in Clerks, and you're listening to Tommy Throwback Kovac on Splat from the Past. Sorry, Tommy, Veronica isn't real.
Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming my second guest from Kevin Smith's 1994 cult classic Clerks, Scott Schiaffo. I'm having him on the show today to talk about how it was like to play the Chewlie's gum representative in Clerks and just how groundbreaking that movie it is. It's the 25th anniversary of that cult classic, and I'm so excited to have her on. And it's going to be just spectacular. I love interviewing people from my favorite cult movies, as you know, and it's going to be just fucking awesome. I can't tell you how fucking awesome it's going to be. So yeah, here is my interview with Scott Schiaffo.
Hello.
Hey Scott, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. How are you?
I am great. How are you tonight, sir?
Doing good.
Well, it's such an honor. Thank you for taking the time tonight.
Oh, sure.
So, going back in time, did you gravitate toward performing early on?
I gravitated to music very early on. I loved music from the time I was, some of my first memories actually as a child was getting a little 45 player, if you know what 45s are, singles. I'm old, so I grew up with records. My older cousin had gotten me a little record player, and I got the Beatles and the Stones, and because I grew up in the 60s. I mean, I didn't grow up in the 60s. I was born in the 60s. I was a young child in the 60s, and I really kind of came to in the 70s and 80s. But music was my first, and still is. Film acting is a close second. I love film, but music is my first passion.
Yeah. Well, what was your first instrument you played?
The very first instrument is the instrument I still pretty much love to this day, which was guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I do play keyboards. I play bass. I play harmonica. A little bit of drums, but drums are more for fun. I wouldn't, try to pawn myself off as a real drummer. But I mean, I have a kit in the studio and I bang it out. But I usually let a real guy come in and play on the tracks when we record. But real drummer. But guitar's number one and keyboard's a close second.
Yeah. How many instruments overall would you say you play?
Well, you got guitar, bass, keyboard, harmonica, so that's 4. And the drums, they're more for fun. I don't really count them.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. That's it.
Yeah, when I was growing up, my dad was in a band. He tried to get me to play guitar. I tried to pick up drums. I got no musical talent whatsoever.
Well, it is the kind of thing where, because when I was in college, I taught lessons, for a while. I was teaching guitar lessons for a little while when I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a few guys and 1 or 2 gals who I would, see after a few weeks. There are certain, like me, I'm not good with cars, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
You could teach me something about a car, and I'll remember it, and I'll go back. But mechanics were not necessarily something I was good with. I was good with electronics, but just echoing your point, I think, don't feel bad. I mean, some people are acclimated to music, and some it's, you hear people, they always joke, all I play is the radio.
Yeah. I could barely sing karaoke, but I have fun doing that. What kind of music did you like growing up?
I grew up with all the classic rock, so that was the stuff that really got in there in my head at a young age. Like I said, the Beatles, Stones,
mm-hmm.
Zeppelin, The Who, So everything in the 60s and 70s was very important to me. When we got into the 70s, all of the singer-songwriters like Elton John and
Right.
people like that. Springsteen I respect, but as a younger guy, I wasn't that into him per se. I gravitated more to heavy rock and metal. By the time I found Kiss in my teens, and then it was Van Halen, and then in the late 80s and the 90s, I got really into REM, The Cure, U2.
Yeah.
I constantly have changed over the years, but I love all music. I try to keep up. I'm really out of the scene a long time as far as keeping up with new music, which is the music business has changed so much from when I grew up. I love technology. I don't have a problem with the fact that it's changed so much, but it's just so different than what I'm used to in terms of how we find our music and how, I love going to the record stores and whatnot. I know that's coming back a little bit now, but long story short, I think the last band I found that you would call that aren't new anymore, but they were kind of new to me, was Wilco and
Yeah.
I can't even think of who else. I'm not that current anymore, but I love all music. There's very little music I don't like or appreciate on some level.
No, that's good. Yeah, I'm a classic rock guy too. I grew up on all that stuff. My dad grew up on too. Do you remember the first album you bought with your own money?
The first album I bought with my own money. That's a hard one because I grew up with a single mom, just me and her. She worked her fingers to the bone to give me some kind of decent life. She didn't have a lot of help. So, I was getting records for so long before I had my own money. That's a great question because I'm trying to think who am I. It was probably like Kiss Alive.
Oh, nice. Great album.
Or something like that. Yeah, I gave that. My mom that would always be my birthday, Christmas gift, or if I got a good grade in school, I get a new album or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was my childhood, and it was wonderful. And but that's a great question. I'm going to guess probably something like a Kiss album might have been the first album I bought on my own.
Well, here's a two-parter. How about first concert attended?
This is funny because the woman who I'm with, and I have a very wonderful relationship with her. We found out not that long ago, and we know each other a long time. We were both at the same concert as kids, our first ever concert. Now, it's a little embarrassing to admit it now, but I was like 9 years old. It was David Cassidy because the Partridge Family were huge. And my mother's brother, my uncle, had got my cousin's tickets, and he got me one too because we knew how much we all loved the Partridge Family. Mm-hmm. So we went and saw David Cassidy. It was my first concert.
Oh, that's not bad to admit. He was a badass at that time.
Yeah, well, that's true. He was one of the first, I guess, boy stars or pop. Well, he's one of the first guys to pop off of television like that. That hadn't really been done.
Yeah, this was like post-British Invasion, and before British Invasion, there was all the teen idols like Fabian and Neil Sedaka and all those guys. And then, the British Invasion guys, they were kind of teen idols, but then we didn't have the teen idol singers again until like David Cassidy and Leif Garrett, and guys like that.
Right. Teen Magazine and all that stuff.
Yeah. So, were you playing in bands in high school?
Yeah, by the time I got to high school, guitar was music. It still does mean the world to me, but like at that point, really the guitar was my best friend. I was pretty geeky. I was like the chubby, unathletic kid in grammar school, and that didn't go well. Got picked on. I wasn't into sports. I was into music and I was into movies, and growing up with a single mom, she did shelter me from a little of that stuff. So, but I didn't actually gravitate to sports anyway. But I'm sorry, the question was. Now I'm floating away on my own little thought bubble here.
Oh, about playing in high school bands.
Oh, bands, yes. By the time I got to high school, guitar was everything to me, and I met a bunch of other guys. And, for every talent show, we would put together a rock band. And by the time my junior year, we we won, but then they said we tied with another band, which was cool. But we didn't care. We just all loved playing. It wasn't that much of a competition. But in college, when I got to college, the scene was a lot more original again, because now you're in the late 80s, early 90s by the time I'm doing college. Because I didn't go to college right out of high school. I went to college late.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated high school in 81. I didn't start college until the middle 80s. And then I went to 2-year school, then a 4-year school. Eventually I went to get a master's degree, but that's recently, but that's another whole story.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time I was in college, it was really big with REM, U2, The Cure, sort of like pop bands and Left of Center.
Smithereens.
Right, all of that. But Smithereens with Jersey, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful songwriter he is. It's a shame he's gone. He passed away.
Yeah.
But I got, original bands were the thing. I mean, you didn't get paid much at all, but the original band scene was big in all the clubs. There were still some top 40 clubs where there were cover bands, but it was, when I was in college, it was more into originals, which was nice. Of course, I met there were a lot of people that came and went, and that were fairly forgettable, because you either caught fire and you got a record deal, or you just probably fizzled out. But what happened was it's pretty well known, anybody who, I won't say it's pretty well known, anybody who knows much about me personally or otherwise, I had gone through alcohol and drug problems for many years, and it was starting to happen in those years. And I was not reliable in the band anymore, and I knew it. And it broke my heart, but, they kind of had to let me go, and I kind of left, so it was like mutual. They continued on. I still wrote songs with them, but I didn't go on the road, and I didn't really go in the studio with them anymore. But what happened was, one of my first attempts to try to clean up a little bit, I thought, because I got the acting bug in college, but it didn't really stick. I did theater, and I did a cable television show for a while. That was like a sketch comedy show. And But then when I thought, you know what, I'll put the music down for a little while, because for a while the music was also really feeding into the partying, and because in the clubs it's all booze and who's wants to get the band high and whatnot. It really made my problem even tenfold worse. So I thought, let me go back to the acting, because with acting, if I screw up, I'm kind of only hurting myself. If I miss an audition, I hurt myself. I don't hurt a whole band. So that was the thought process, and it was really a strange one, because it doesn't, if you're going to drink or do drugs to the point where you're not functioning, you're going to mess up eventually, and you're going to affect other people's lives. I just felt that I could keep it more isolated from others if I wasn't doing a band and just going out and auditioning for acting parts here and there. And I was super lucky, because I got a local play, and then very quickly I got the Clerks audition, and I, within a couple of weeks, heard that they wanted me to come back and read from the script. They were very interested in me.
Mm-hmm.
And then they hired me. Kevin, gave me the role of the Chewlie's gum guy. And then, a year later, when it came out and it did so well, now I was full-forged, kind of thinking, okay, I'm going to really go with the acting thing, because I love it. I mean, I always have. I love film very much.
Yeah.
I always have. So I kind of really forged the character acting career, but I still stayed with the music. And what happened was, I built a small project studio, and I was doing a lot of independent film scores and music sweetening and audio sweetening for a lot of films. Even if I wasn't in the cast, I was starting to meet people where they had some work for me as a film composer. So I did a lot of that too in the last 20 or 30 years since Clerks. So it's all nicely for me come together where I'm able to stay active, stay creative, and keep it going. I don't have a family, so I didn't have that part of, because a lot of guys who, if you settle down, you have children, you got to really have a steady paycheck, or else you're hurting a lot of other people.
Right.
Part of my addictions kept me from that, but in the long run, it was maybe a good thing, because financially, it was either feast or famine for a long time. Mm-hmm. So all it did was affect me and nobody else.
Mm-hmm. Was that your first movie audition?
That wasn't the actual first movie audition for me. It was one of the first few. Because that year, independent film was starting to become a bigger thing back then.
Yeah.
You had a lot of guys out on the West Coast. You had Tarantino. There were a lot of New York guys that I really liked. Ginger Amouche and Al Hartley, and there were a number of them, Nick Gomez. And indie films were starting to get a buzz. So I had gotten some auditions. I had actually gotten something where they began filming and then they ran out of money. And then I went down for Clerks because there wasn't a lot going on in New Jersey at the time. I was going in and out of New York City a lot, which I didn't mind because I love New York.
Yeah.
I live very close to New York where I live in New Jersey. But then I saw the audition for, a New Jersey indie filmmaker was doing a film. And they were down in South Jersey, obviously. They well documented. They're down there towards the shore towns, and I was way up north. I said, I got to get down to this because, somebody in New Jersey shooting a film. This is cool, and it worked out pretty well for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine reading the script is like watching the movie for the first time. You were like, you probably thought, why the fuck is this guy so militant about smoking right in the middle of a convenience store? And then we get the punchline is he's a Chewlie's gum representative.
Right. Well, it's funny. The first set of auditions, the very first set of auditions, there was no reading from the script. Kevin had us all do prepared monologues, which is a popular way that they audition film actors too.
Yeah.
You come in with a prepared piece, and you do your prepared piece, and if they see something they like, they call you back to read from the script. And that's what happened with all of us that night, who did end up in the film. They called me back, and they said, okay, now you come down, we want you to read from the script. And it was pretty cold. You showed up, they handed me the sides. Mm-hmm. They said, the activist, his name in the first draft, well, I won't call it a first draft, I don't know if it was a first draft, but his name in the draft of the script they were handing out that evening was the activist. He wasn't, we all know him as the Chewlie's gum guy now, but in the script he was called the activist. And I think even in the credits, the first set of credits, or maybe even in the actual credits, it's still called the activist.
Right.
But he handed me that, and he said, read it over, and then come back in and do it with us. And I didn't see the second scene. I read up until where, basically, I pulled a lung out on the desk and then out on the counter, and then I talked the guy out of the cigarettes, and he leaves, and Dante tells me you should drink that outside and whatnot. I thought that was the end right there.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that was great. Now let's go on to the second part. I said, wait a minute, what do you mean second part? Because what they did, in the middle of that was Jay and Bob stuff. So I stopped reading. I didn't know the activist continued. So like, no, there's more. Keep going. So I was like, oh, my. And that's the real meat of the scene.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow. And then this whole riot ensues. But, I had a lot of balls and energy back then, so I just gave him 110%. And Kevin really dug it. And, they called back shortly to let me know, you're our guy. We want you for this role. So that was great.
Before filming started, though, did you guys do any rehearsal? Because the scene is so well prepared, it looks like.
Oh, absolutely. But again, for the character roles, the non-lead roles, we didn't get the full script. The first time I ever saw the entire movie was the first time he sent us a finished screener, which, about, 9 months, a year later after we shot, he sent us all VHS tapes, which I still have, which is a great, collectible gift. I don't know how many of them he made, but the original first director's cut, he sent us a VHS. So I had no idea Dante and Randall and their whole story, and it's, what goes on in the store. I didn't know any of it. I just knew the gum guy stuff, and then I was out of there. So the first time I got to really see the movie, it was just as exciting to me and new as anybody else. I had only seen the scenes that I was in. So whereas Brian O'Halloran and Marilyn Gigliotti and all those folks, the people that are in majority of the film, Kevin had given them the entire screenplay to read.
Yeah. How long did it take to film that scene?
Well, he didn't have the luxury of a lot of takes because film was expensive, and back then there was no digital and nothing like it is today. So you shot film, and film was serious, and it was expensive, and you had to have it developed, and there's a whole big process to it. So he only had 1 or 2 passes at every scene, and a lot of scenes he didn't have multiple coverage on, which is, you see any movie that has a decent budget, any one scene, any one scene, whether it's people talking or an action scene, is shot from so many different angles, close up, medium shot, long shot, and then they blend it all together. Kevin really only had the ability to shoot things 1 or 2 ways. He wasn't doing it from a bunch of angles with all this different, what we call coverage. So you got 1 or 2 shots. He actually shot the Gum Guy stuff. I think we shot 3 full takes, and the entire thing played out in one thing. It wasn't a matter of, that second set of stuff where the real riot goes on. That's all boom, right from jump. That just is one big take. So it was pretty mind blowing. A lot of energy, and after we did that, I was floating around on like this adrenaline bubble. I just got myself so whipped into a frenzy after the 3rd take. I literally had to walk around the front of the store and whatnot to just kind of come out of it. It was fun. It was exciting.
Yeah.
When you really throw yourself into it, you get into it on every possible level. Physically, you're taken away. Mentally, you're taken away, and it's exciting.
Yeah, the sky was the limit.
Yeah, and he was really great. His main concern was sticking as close to his script as you could possibly go.
Oh yeah.
So that was fine, and none of us had issues with that because the way it was written was wonderful. And so as long as you were doing that, and you were hitting the spots that he wanted you to hit. He was all for giving 110% because he knew the more ballistic the guy went, the more insane it would be when you found out that he was really a gun salesman.
Yeah. I love your line, yeah, there was other people who followed orders. They're called Nazis.
Yeah.
That's a great line.
It's I don't know, there's 2, there's the director's version and then the Miramax cut. The Gum Guy stuff is cut up a little differently. There's a few things missing.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Nazis part is in the Miramax cut, or there might have been something after. I know that they're cut differently because I lived with that VHS. We all did for a good bunch of months, maybe even close to a year before the film actually came out.
Yeah.
When we went to the theaters to all see it for the first time, it wasn't drastically different, but it was a different cut. It was edited a little differently, and now we had a great soundtrack. And the cut we got on VHS was very raw soundtrack. So I remember thinking, oh, it's cut a little differently, and there was a few moments of the Gum Guy that were cut out that I got used to that I thought were good, but that's life. But later on, I believe the first place that came out was on the Laserdisc, and after the Laserdisc and after all the subsequent anniversaries and whatnot, the original director's cut is included on like all the packages now. You can see that original cut now. That's the one where Dante gets shot at the end. And
yeah, I was reading that you scraped yourself on the neck on one of the takes, in the screen door.
In Vulgar, yeah, in the movie Vulgar.
Oh, it was in Vulgar. Okay, for some reason I thought it was in Clerks.
Yeah, no, that was the film we shot with Brian Johnson's film that Kevin produced, that Kevin's in.
Right.
And a lot of us from Clerks are in Vulgar. Yeah, that's that whole crazy clown story. I don't know if you're familiar with it, if you've ever seen it.
I saw it once years ago. I laughed my ass off during that opening, a rape scene. I just did not expect that.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't believe me. That movie, I'll tell you, the movie is a very interesting movie. There's a lot of interesting performances. Brian Johnson has definitely got a very fertile and crazy imagination, and there's a lot of interesting dialogue. I really feel it didn't get a very fair shake, but I also understand why, because it's so brutal in some of the... the rape scene is not necessarily graphic as much as it's verbally weird and strange, and you don't expect it to go there. Nobody's expecting that, really. And it's about as dark a comedy as you're going to get. So it got a lot of, people either really get it and enjoy it, or think, oh, God, this is not for me,
Mm-hmm. So how was Kevin as a director so young back then?
Well, I'm a little older than a bunch of those guys. They were all in their early-ish 20s, early to mid, and I was up to my late 20s by then, so that doesn't seem like a lot, but I had a good 5-6 years on a lot of people there. And I remember when I finally got to, speak with Kevin and get to know him a little better one-on-one, I was very impressed by his command of language. Like, he spoke really well, and he was really funny.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like an older soul, and very wise, what I felt beyond his years.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a lot of great conversations that first year on the phone and on the set. So I felt, wow, we were in good hands. I believed that. It didn't matter to me that this was his first directing film. We were all jazzed up by the energy and the really irreverent script.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a masterpiece. There's no other way to put it. Clerks is just a masterpiece, and he was just well beyond his years with all the jokes and all the true human emotion. It's a flawless masterpiece, I think.
Well, I would tend to agree on a lot of levels. I mean, when I first saw the finished cut that he sent us, I did believe it was special, but I never dreamed that with a little bit of Miramax finesse, that it would cross over the way that it did. Because it's so much more now than a underground indie film. It found almost a mainstream acceptance over the years.
Mm-hmm.
As mainstream as it could find, given the crudeness of some of it. But he's also managed to take those characters and his style and take you through many what was the word I want? Many formations of, Mallrats was much more polished in some ways, but just as irreverent. And Chasing Amy's another brilliant script, and he's really a very fine writer,
Oh, yes. He's one of the best. A critic described him as David Mamet meets Howard Stern.
Yeah, that's about right. That works.
Yeah. Did he ever ask you to be in any of his other movies?
Well, aside from Vulgar, which was really Brian Johnson's baby, but Kevin was producing, so they all had a say in who was going to get what.
Yeah.
I was fortunate to be in that. We had a guest appearance in Comic Book Men, but I had lost touch with a lot of those folks because I was from way up northern New Jersey. I didn't establish really good friendships to where we were hanging out like buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And, my up here where I grew up and where I had my base of people, I had a strong base of people here, and I was in and out of the city a lot going on auditions and looking to branch out as much as I could. I didn't necessarily get that close to them after that first year or two, and he really began to rise up and meet some other people who he would get close to and use, like a Fleck. Met him on Mallrats, and Matt Damon and whatnot, and even Brian, who's the lead in Vulgar, those first couple of movies after Vulgar, he was getting much smaller roles as well, only Only because Kevin was branching out, and you know, let's face it, the real success story of that film, granted all of us as actors, we did our best, but the real success story of Clerks is the way it was filmed. It's Kevin's story, and he was the runaway. If there's a star that was made out of the film, it was Kevin, and that's fine. He deserved every bit of it. So by the time you got to the next handful of films, he was really getting ensconced in the Hollywood. He didn't become Hollywood.
Yeah.
He had Hollywood studios that he was working with now. And when that happens, you're not just going to put people who are either friends or amateurs or, Jay almost couldn't get to be in Mallrats.
Yep.
So when you think of that, you realize the game changed quickly with that big first year of success.
Yeah. I know Marilyn told me that she was almost cast in, I think, Chasing Amy or something like that, and then some stuff happened. But other than that, yeah. I mean, I was surprised that a bunch of people from Clerks weren't in his subsequent movies as, leads and stuff. But they all got to be, small parts and stuff. Like, Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson got small parts in his other movies.
Right, and a lot of times, which is more credit to him, he created a universe where people came back as who they were originally, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And, the more the films become successful and you do that, you're really solidifying like a brand in a sense. So now you have a universe where you have reoccurring characters as opposed to an ensemble where every movie the same actors play completely different roles. That's a whole different way of going at it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's chosen to keep it a universe where the universe, will create new roles for new actors, but a lot of the old roles will reappear. Have you seen the reboot?
I have not seen it yet, but I can't wait until it's available for me to see it. I'm looking forward to it.
You're going to like it very much because, there's every possible cameo you could think about, and it's a real love letter. You must have seen or heard online who's in or who's not in, but so many of us get to pop in on that. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited for that. I mean, because I love Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. That I know I'm going to love this too. And I haven't seen Shooting Clerks yet.
That's a really fun one. That's such a creative and beautifully reimagined biopic done by people who really, really loved their source material, and it was really so wonderful to be a part of that, and to be cast as Kevin's dad was a real mind blower.
Mm-hmm. So after
that well, but
yeah. So after Clerks, did you try getting roles in Hollywood?
no, I didn't really head out there, and I'll tell you why. What happened then was we all became, the way the film business kind of is. There are your A-list celebrities, and then there's your B and your C list and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the indie film scene. And in the Hollywood circles, all of us were still small change. But in the independent film world, which was gaining a lot of momentum, we were slightly bigger fish. So in the Hollywood circles, we were still really small fish that people didn't even care that much about or might not have even given that much respect to per se.
Yeah.
But the indie film world treated us like bigger fish. So we were bigger fish in a smaller pond, whereas in the Hollywood pond, we were really tiny fish. So I gravitated to a lot of independent stuff, and I got a lot of really nice projects. You can see on my IMDb. I stayed pretty active throughout most of the early to mid 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I'm yawning. I got up very late today. lot in the late 90s and the early 2000s in a lot of indie films, and I got a lot of nice connections in that world, so I was getting a lot of word of mouth work as an actor and as a film composer. And, to me that was fine. It was very much a very contained and a very creative type of projects, the things that I really enjoyed. I got a chance to do things that I might not have had a chance to do if I were pursuing a bigger career in Hollywood, and I might not have even been cast for all I know. But being a bigger fish in a smaller pond, which is the independent film pond, we did better. At least I did.
Mm-hmm. I was reading that you won a film festival award for scoring and editing a short called Caught Off Tard.
Yes, I did. That was a real sort of unexpected thing. I was called in by the film director and the writer because he was a big fan of Clerks, and he also knew that at that point I had scored a indie horror trilogy, which I don't know if I had actually done the one where I acted in or not by then, but he had done that work, and he trusted that I could do what he needed. He had a very strange conceptual film about a man with mental health challenges, and it was very well acted to where it was heartbreakingly so to watch a lot of it. And the music he was enjoying, we got to really shake it up and use music that almost juxtaposes the scene. So if something is brutally sad, you almost get a quirky, odd, almost upbeat melody. And when you put the two together, the impact of the whole thing just takes it to another level. So I felt fortunate to be able to work with people who, the art of their film meant a lot more to them than the budget and would the film make a profit or not. And the fact that we got an award and all, it was all very nice.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I mean, at least you're still in the game and you're still working. Do you have any upcoming projects or convention appearances?
There's a couple things next year for conventions that where the contracts aren't signed just yet, but they look like they're going to be a lot of fun because Jeff Anderson now is going to come out on the road with us. At least he says he's going to. So
Yeah.
you're going to get like a much bigger reunion at some of these shows. So there's some of the bigger cons. The Galaxy cons are reaching out to us for next year. I worked on an independent web series that's screening at the Big Apple Film Festival this month, where I did the score and I play one of the characters, and we got that screening within like 2 weeks here in the Big Apple. And I'm fortunate. I keep busy, and I get to do what I love, and I certainly am not a household name, but I have respect of my peers, and, financially, it's been feast or famine, but it's a lot more, it's a lot less famine, and it might not be feast all the time, but I don't have to really sweat it, and I get to really do what I've loved since I was a child, whether it's music or acting for the camera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also wanted to tell you, in January I'm coming up 5 years sober myself.
Oh, that's great. Wonderful for you, man. That is wonderful.
Thank you.
The disease of alcoholism or drug addiction is, I'll have 14 years next summer. It's 13 years this last 4th of July. That's sober from alcohol and any illicit drugs. I have a lot of medical conditions in my life at this point. So there are prescription medications that float in and out of my life. but they're all heavily watched by a doctor, and I don't abuse them. But the point is, that is a beautiful gift because there's so many. I was really poised to die from it, and at one point I didn't care. I almost welcomed it. There were so many times I would have drank myself to death or jumped off the bridge under the influence of alcohol and hard drugs. That there was, years where there was so much darkness and not a lot of light. So, whatever time you're celebrating, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful gift because you have the power to kind of be whoever you want to be today, as opposed to when we pick up or we use, we really can only just be that addict or that alcoholic for that day. And the alcohol and the drug, they're calling the shots, period.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, irony of irony. In 2013, my mother and I, we lost everything, and I turned to the bottle. And for a couple of years, we were couch hopping, and had no employment, nothing. I got hit by a car. I spent 30 days in a coma. I mean, it was just a mess. And then in 2016, my mom had been working a really good job for like a year, and for my birthday, she got me a ticket and a VIP pass to see Kevin Smith at the San Jose Improv because he was showing his movie Yoga Hosers there. And I went, and towards the end of the night, Kevin made the speech for like 30 minutes because Kevin, he likes to talk.
Right.
He made a speech about how the podcast world is changing the world, and how he feels proud about how he pioneered it, and that how he encourages everyone to start one. Well, 9 months later, my mom and I got this beautiful apartment, and I had privacy finally, so I started my podcast.
That's a wonderful story, brother. I'm very happy for you.
Thank you so much, Scott, and I appreciate you coming on tonight. This was just amazing.
Oh, you got it. I don't know what kind of time frame we're under. I've got to get going soon.
Yeah, I've got to get going myself. I think we'll end on that note, unless you don't know if, like you said, you don't know if you have any convention appearances coming up or anything else, right?
Yeah, nothing. There's nothing convention-wise I can plug because none of it is set in stone. It's looking good for, gosh, now I'm forgetting even the towns, but there's a couple of big ones. Minneapolis next year in November, and I believe not Virginia Beach, but Raleigh GalaxyCon. They're GalaxyCon events. We're supposed to have a whole bunch of us from the movie. Jeff Anderson, Brian, Marilyn,
Right.
myself, Jay Muse, like a big reuniting of everybody because of the reboot movie, so we'll see. But it's only tentative, so I can't say for sure. But I'm very easy to find on social media. I encourage everybody to reach out, join up, become part of my Facebook. It's a lot of fun. It's all things Kevin Smith and whatever else I'm doing with my career or with other projects I'm working on. It's just been wonderful, and I appreciate anybody who has the interest to come check it out.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Scott, and you have yourself a great night over there, and I hope they bring you guys to California, because if they do, I'll be there.
Absolutely, man. That'd be great. There is a little talk of that, too, so we'll see next year. Could be a big year.
Awesome.
All right, man.
All right,
hey,
sir.
You have a great night. Thanks for this.
My pleasure. Have a great night.
Okay, man. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Scott Schiaffo. Ain't he a cool dude? He is a very awesome, inspiring man. I'm glad I got to fucking talk to him because, as you all know, and I've brought this up a million times before, I love talking to inspiring people because I'm an inspiring person myself, and I've been through a lot. So thank you so much, Scott. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes. Nooch.